a few other things. That I had a magnetic healing vest, and they stole that within a week. So I told me them, here's something that works. I think if you have, and I haven't used these things, but I think they will cause a problem for the perps. But they are a mass, and there would be powders of dust, like iron dust. Iron in the shape of, or in the form of powder. But of course, you don't want to spread it around your floor and everything, make your apartment a mess. You could put it on something and then use an art lacquer or a fixative to spray it on something. That would probably help. And the other would be, they don't like shiny, on me at least, shiny clothes. Highly reflective ones. They burned a hole in my coat that had some reflective lining in it. It wasn't shielding, but it was just a shiny liner fabric. And I think titanium dioxide, which is a white powder, it's used as a filler in foods like Oreo cookies. That's where they get the white middle from. I believe that particular substance gives the perps color reflectivity problems. But again, it would be a mess to use practically, so I never did myself. Something worth trying, I believe. Probably I didn't answer your question.
I think most, I want to say every gang stalking victim, organized stalking victim, suffers from financial devastation. And you're obviously not working the way you were. Have they depleted you like other victims?
Yes, my financial resources are truly depleted. I'm dependent on this disability, as I mentioned. My savings have all been spent. I was on a company disability for 2 years, and that ended. And now I have a federal government subsidy, a Social Security-like disability payment once a month. But, this is... I have a subsidy of $150 a month for my apartment. I could live within my means, but the perps have me on this chocolate fixation of needing all chocolate, which is totally controlled because at one time they had me so I didn't even like chocolate. I didn't even want to smell it. But because they have problems with certain colors, brown being one of them, and they like me to eat chocolate. And there's lots of noise that goes on outside whenever I'm eating chocolate. Or I also have noise beforehand, and then they go all quiet for chocolate either way. But that's $100 to $200 a month for that ridiculous habit that I never had before. And of course, I'm into my line of credit, and I get bailed out by my parents every so often. But the perps like to have me in this current state. Just when I was running out of my savings, they crashed my computer. I had to get a new one, rebuilt the one that I had. And then, 6 months later, they crashed 2 hard drives at once. And so, if they want something taken down, they're not really worrying about my finances.
Well, they have ways of running you into the ground. I know they give me health problems, and I end up in the ER all the time. Several times, I should say, and it's given me big bills. And I do manage to pay them, but it is difficult. I mean, you can't have one dime to yourself to put away, so they do keep you depleted. You have a website. Do you want to tell the listeners your website? So it's very thorough. It's very impressive.
Okay, well, thank you. It's TI World, just one string, one word, .blogspot.com. As the name suggests, it's a blog, and having all the time I do, just natter away on what goes on around me or happened to me, or if I have an outing and what strangeness happened that day. So it's very descriptive, and as part of it, I've got some books and websites listed as well. So if you want a blow-by-blow account of what happens to targeted individuals on a daily basis, I think I have a reasonably good explanation. And I use it to also point to those naysayers who kept on at me saying, "Oh, this is a clinical or a healthcare problem." There's been no correlation of any healthcare issue with the harassment. And finally, after 3 years, and after hauling me in there, the doctor who I saw said, "You're being persecuted." Well, fine, that's great. Guess what? I retired after that. So I start with a new doctor who makes it out that he was not buying that determination, and then it's, I'm on this, I visit them every month or two. And there's a number of disability benefits that flow from seeing the doctor where I am. So I am currently seeing one, actually it's changing from one to another. But so that's part of my world that I live in. I have to sort of keep this clinical thing going. At the same time, deal with what's really going on. And in the course of, a casual labor job, which I now can get, or volunteering, I also have to keep up this story of this harassment not really happening. There's a huge degree of sort of what I call design coincidences, of somebody mentioning something, and then it shows up in the news the next day, or, I've written something using those very words, or, I think other TIs mention this as well, and to me it occurs to a high degree daily, and some of these events are tragic. There's bus crashes. I was on the bus yesterday for a couple hours, and I see a bus crash in Alberta where at least one person died, and maybe that's a coincidence, but when you go through a half dozen of these in a week or two, or more, actually in my case, then, it's really tragic what's going on here. And I think that various people in the jobs unknowingly are being served up for these purposes. One thing, I had a street assault a few months ago, and then, punched me in the head. One guy punched me in the head in the middle of a crosswalk. And, I was bleeding and everything else. And, phoned the police from our local store, and the 3 people who were Asians running the store sort of all lined up together. That was pretty odd. But then the police finally came, I talked to them, and there was 2 dark red vehicles parked on the street in front of the police van. A blonde woman came and sat down outside a store, which was a furniture store, and it happened to have a chair out that day, and there she was. There was, I don't know, at least 10 to 15 dark red, blood red vehicles coursing by while I was talking to the police about this incident. And, there's a certain racial component to this, if I may be so bold. I believe it relates to more color, not behavior, skin color. And the next day, there was, in Vancouver, not too far from here, there was a massacre of 6 people in an apartment of varying races. And, I don't know what to make of that. Maybe it's a coincidence again. But there's way too many of these things happening, and it does stress me some to know that it could be part of the same huge, non-consensual human experimentation and evaluation program that seems to be going on.
Well, I get the coincidences too. I mean, they'll announce something to me, like last night they were talking about the TU-24 asteroid, that is jeopardizing our planet supposedly in the next couple of days. It could be dangerous. Now, I don't know if it's real or not, but I went to work this morning, pulled up the internet, and there it was. I mean, they have told me too about accidents ahead of time, and I know that they've told me about a building fire the night before it happened in both my buildings. So I do think you're right. Designed coincidences, then they're behind them. They know they're going to happen. I think you're absolutely right about that. Can I ask you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to mention sometimes in the case of 9/11, they actually created a situation